publishing the report of the Savile inquiry, the tribunal set up by the previous government to investigate the tragic events of the 30th of January 1972, the day more commonly known as Bloody Sunday. We have acted in good faith by publishing the tribunal's findings as quickly as possible after the general election. Mr. Speaker, I am deeply patriotic. I never want to believe anything bad about our country. I never want to call into question the behaviour of our soldiers and our army, who I believe to be the finest in the world. In dangerous circumstances in which we ask our soldiers to serve. But the conclusions of this report are absolutely clear. There is no doubt, there is nothing equivocal, there are no ambiguities. What happened on Bloody Sunday was both unjustified and unjustifiable. Did so as a result of an order which should not have been given by their commander. He finds that on balance the first shot in the vicinity of the march was fired by the British Army. He finds that the soldiers of the support company was armed with a firearm. He finds that there was some firing by Republican paramilitaries, but none of this firing provided any justification for the shooting of civilians. He also finds that the support company reacted by losing their self-control, forgetting or ignoring their instructions and training, and with a serious and widespread loss of fire discipline. He finds that despite the contrary evidence given by the soldiers, none of them fired in response to attacks or threatened attacks by nail or petrol bombers. In order to seek to justify their firing. What's more, Lord Savile says that some of those killed or injured were clearly fleeing or going to the assistance of others who were dying. The report refers to one person who was shot while crawling away from the soldiers. Another was shot, in all probability, when he was lying mortally wounded on the ground. And the report refers to the father, who was hit and injured by army gunfire after he had gone to tend to his son. For those looking for statements of innocence, Savile says, the immediate responsibility for the deaths and injuries on Bloody Sunday lies with those members of support company whose unjustifiable firing was the cause of those deaths and injuries. Posing a threat of causing death or serious injury, or indeed was doing anything else that could, on any view, justify their shooting. Yes. For those people who were looking for the report to use terms like murder and unlawful killing, I remind the House that these judgments are not matters for a tribunal or for us as politicians to determine. Mr. Speaker, these are shocking conclusions to read and shocking words to have to say. But, Mr. Speaker, you do not defend the British Army by defending the indefensible. We do not honour all those who served with such distinction in keeping the peace and upholding the rule of law in Northern Ireland by hiding from the truth. So there is no point in trying to soften or equivocate what is in this report. It is clear from the Tribunal's authoritative conclusions that the events of Bloody Sunday were in no way justified. I know that some people wonder whether nearly 40 years on from an event, a Prime Minister needs to issue an apology. For someone of my generation, Bloody Sunday and the early 1970s are something we feel we have learnt about rather than lived through. But what happened should never, ever have happened. The families of those who died should not have to live with the pain and the hurt of that day and with a lifetime of loss. Some members of our armed forces acted wrongly. The government is ultimately responsible for the conduct of the armed forces, and for that, on behalf of the government, indeed on behalf of our country, I am deeply sorry. premeditation, those looking for a plan, those even looking for a conspiracy involving senior politicians or senior members of the armed forces, they will not find it in this report. Indeed, Lord Savile finds no evidence that the events of Bloody Sunday were premeditated. He concludes that the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland governments and the army neither tolerated nor encouraged the use of unjustified lethal force. He makes no suggestion of a government cover-up, and Lord Savile credits the UK government with working towards a peaceful political settlement in Northern Ireland. Mr. Speaker, the report also specifically deals with the actions of key individuals in the army, in politics and beyond, including Major General Ford, Brigadier McClellan and Lieutenant Colonel Wilson. In each case, the Tribunal's findings are clear. It does the same for Martin McGuinness. It specifically finds he was present and probably armed with a submachine gun, but it concludes, we're sure that he did not engage in any activities that provided any of the soldiers with any justification for opening fire. Mr. Speaker, while in no way justifying the events of the January the 30th, 1972, we should acknowledge the background to the events of Bloody Sunday. Since 1969, the security situation in Northern Ireland had been declining significantly. 3 days before Bloody Sunday, 2 RUC officers, one a Catholic, were shot by the IRA in Londonderry, the first police officers killed in the city during the Troubles. A third of the city of Derry had become a no-go area for the RUC and the army. And in the end, 1972 was to prove Northern Ireland's bloodiest year by far, with nearly 500 people killed. And let us also remember, Bloody Sunday is not the defining story of the service the British Army gave in Northern Ireland from 1969 to 2007. This was known as Operation Derry, the longest continuous operation in British military history, spanning 38 years, and in which over 250,000 people served. Our armed forces displayed enormous courage and professionalism in upholding democracy and the rule of law in Northern Ireland. Acting in support of the police, they played a major part in setting the conditions that have made peaceful politics possible. And over 1,000 members of the security forces lost their lives to that cause. Without their work, the peace process would not have happened. Of course, some mistakes were undoubtedly made, but lessons were also learned. And once again, I put on record the immense debt of gratitude we all owe to those who served in Northern Ireland. Mr. Speaker, may I also thank the Tribunal for its work and all those who displayed great courage in giving evidence. I would also like to acknowledge the grief of the families of those killed. They have pursued their long campaign over 38 years with great patience. Nothing could bring about those so killed, but I hope with one light of the truth coming out can help set people free. John Major said he was open to a new inquiry. Tony Blair then set it up. This was accepted by the then leader of the opposition. Of course, none of us anticipated that the Savile inquiry would take 12 years or cost almost £200 million. Our views on that are well documented. It is right to pursue the truth with vigour and thoroughness, but let me reassure the House there will be no more open-ended and costly inquiries into the past.